All right, 6:03 on my clock. So let's get ourselves started. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We've got a jam-packed agenda here, covering how to get prepared for retirement, which is basically the theme behind practicing. So your co-hosts for this evening are I'm Mark Horner with Fairhaven Wealth Management, then Kurt Anderson, also part of our team here. So just a couple of housekeeping items. We're going to be monitoring the chat box. If you could use that for questions, do not hesitate. And as a question pops up, go ahead and put it in the chat box, and we'll try and deal with those as those come up through the course of the evening. We are recording the event, so let's try and keep those comments in the chat box clean. And then we're going to have a replay for of the recording. Hopefully, we'll have that out to you tomorrow. But if not, the first part of next week. There's also you're going to see through the slides down in the lower right-hand corner, right next to the Fairhaven logo, from time to time, a YouTube logo will pop up. You're not going to see that on every page. That's not a mistake. That's intentional. And what that's meant to do is remind you that we have got individual videos for some of the topics that we're going to cover tonight on both our website at fairhavenwealth.com and our YouTube page. And again, that logo, when you see that YouTube logo, is meant to remind you that that's available. My guess is that by the time we're done tonight, this is going to be something like 30 or 40 minutes. So those individual videos are something like 2 minutes. So you wouldn't have to sit through the entire presentation. So we've got a few people joining us that are not, I don't think, entirely familiar with the firm. So wanted to take a minute just to show you the team. So we are a team of 24 with our offices in Wheaton. We got some very nice accolades, which we're thrilled to share. So forgive the lack of humility, but being named a best place to work both by the state of Illinois and then Inc. magazine as well. So that's national recognition from Inc. magazine, which we are thrilled about. We take our culture very seriously, and so again, thrilled that people are recognizing that both here in the state and around the country. We provide a rather comprehensive range of resources to our clients. We are going to touch on just about everything on this slide, with the exception of that yellow slide up at the top, some of the corporate work that we do for clients. So a client the other day called and let off the call with, I had a question that involved money, so I wanted to call you to see if you guys could help me. That is a beautiful phone call to receive. So we want all of our clients to think about us with anything having to do with their financial planning, not just stocks and bonds. So topics that we're going to go through here tonight are here. Again, it's going to be a lot more than just stocks and bonds. And there will be some takeaways here at the end about ideas that you might want to consider as either you're looking forward to and getting ready for retirement, or if you're already retired, maybe revisiting some of these ideas and strategies that we're going to talk about. So Kurt's going to kick us off, I think, with the Mind the Gap discussion.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mark. And so just kind of taking a look at this, Mind the Gap is a familiar term to many of you that maybe have been to London and ridden the famous subway system there. But Mind the Gap is to warn people about the big step that they have to take as they go from the platform onto the train. And kind of here on this side of the pond, Mind the Gap is a good term as you take that first step into retirement and how to be prepared for retirement and what happens if that first step is a bear market, and how do you handle that, and what are some strategies to better prepare for minding the gap. And taking a look at it, this is a video that we put out a couple of years ago, but recently Vanguard just did a study that said if you retire into a bear market, it could reduce your success rate of retirement by 30%. And why minding the gap is important in retirement and retiring into a bear market, that normally you're used to putting money into the market month after month, But in retirement, you start taking and withdrawing from those funds during a bear market, and you can have a double whammy effect of drawing funds as your portfolio is going down and maybe worth less over time. And so when you're saving and accumulating, a bear market is somewhere where you can continue to put money into the market month after month and wait for the market to recover. But in a bear market, if you're withdrawing money during a bear market, that can have a compounding of a negative effect on your overall portfolio. And the sequence of returns matters. And as we look here are two different strategies that we can kind of go into and looking at the different sequence of returns and what happens if you do retire into a bear market. So Mark, we can kind of slide into the next slide here. And so the first strategy is a dynamic distribution strategy. And this can be key to a successful retirement. It's good to remain flexible and adjust based on market conditions. So over the last 20 years, a 60% stock and a 40% bond portfolio has averaged 7.4% per year. But during that time frame, each year looked very different. We've had several good years in the market and several bad years in the market. And it's important to adjust kind of based on market performance. During the good years, maybe variable spending, that could be a good time to increase variable spending, maybe an extra trip, maybe extra charitable giving, going out to eat more, or more money on entertainment, or more gifts to family. Those are some variable expenses that maybe during the good years, you can spend a little bit more during those years. But during the bad years, or even down years in the market, that could be something where you want to adjust your spending and maybe not spend as much on some of those extras. As always, it's good to try to minimize your fixed costs, because then that maximizes your financial flexibility. If you have too many fixed costs of a home or multiple homes, or a lot of extra costs that are involved, it could take away some of that flexibility to better manage during a bear market. And having a dynamic distribution strategy is a great way of adjusting your spending kind of based on market conditions. And a static strategy is kind of ignoring the market and just taking out the same amount year after year after year, and not really reviewing the portfolio and not adjusting based on what's going on in the market. And then the second strategy on the next slide is looking at the bucket strategy. When you're planning for retirement, we have to plan for the next several years, not just the next several years, but the next 20 or 30 years. Retirement can last a long period of time, and you want to set up a portfolio that allows for these short, medium, and long-term goals to be achieved. There can be a variety of different strategies when looking at the bucket strategy. Sometimes people have an individual account for each one of these buckets, or sometimes it can be managed all in one account. But the idea really here is the same. It's important to know what your investments are doing inside of the portfolio. So on the short-term side of things, in that first bucket, it's good to have cash and other short-term bonds in that portfolio. So if there is a bear market, you don't necessarily have to sell your stocks. You already have that money in cash and very stable investments. So it can kind of help you during a bear market if you were to retire during a bear market. And then kind of that second bucket is the middle term bucket, where you want to have more middle term bonds, value stocks that can help provide income for years 3 through 10. And then that longer term bucket, that's where we have some of the higher risk, higher reward types of stocks, more growth oriented stocks. And with that growth, it can help with future income. It can help in the future to help fight the effects of inflation on an overall portfolio. So by utilizing these two different strategies, it can really kind of position you better and increase your success rate when you're looking at retiring. And if it happens to be in a bear market, we don't necessarily know when a bear market is going to come, but you want to have strategies in place that can help you be a little bit more defensive and increase your odds of a successful retirement.
So Curtis, you're walking through that. I'm getting a mental image of kind of ebbing and flowing. I don't, or maybe I'm watching too much storm coverage. I'm not sure what's contributing to that. But an ebbing and flowing of your spending habits through retirement to kind of mirror what's going on in the stock market. So as we go through good times, which we're not in right now, but as we go through good times, that maybe we peel off some of that to replenish that cash bucket. And then when we go through difficult times, which we're fully in right now, we've built up that cash cushion to be able to draw from that a bit, and then leave the portfolio alone as much as we can to allow it time to recover. Did I follow those comments?
Exactly. That's a great analogy to think about the ebb and flow of the markets, because we just don't know, if there's going to be a bear market, and we know even with an average of 7.4% return on a portfolio over the last 20 years, we're going to have good years, we're going to have bad years, and that's going to continue to repeat itself. So by adjusting in that ebb and flow, I think is great.
So the Vanguard study that Kurt mentioned, I dug into that a little bit. We were, as Kurt mentioned, Fairhaven was a little ahead of the curve. We've talked about this mind the gap thing for the last 4 or 5 years, but we're thrilled that Vanguard has caught up with us. But they dug into a little bit of the statistics about what really quantifying that ebb and flow might be. And so what they have advocated is it's not just stop taking distributions altogether from your portfolio in difficult times, but having the ability to flex even at a 5% increment. So reduce your spending by 5% can have a huge impact on being able to get through difficult market times, and leaving enough fuel in the tank for the portfolio to really recover when we do emerge from the bad times, which we eventually will. So the title practice, that's another Fairhaven original. And so the idea there is that for many things in life, before we go out and actually actually play the game, that we spend lots of time practicing. And so retirement's a big deal for us all. And so doesn't it make sense to maybe give it a test run before we pull the ripcord? So the idea behind practicing your retirement, it's pretty straightforward. And that is you've got to go through the financial planning process of getting together a budget of what you think your spending is going to be in retirement, and separating out, as Kurt pointed out, both fixed and variable costs. And the reason it's important to identify those is, as their names imply, fixed just keep going at their current rate, which provides less flexibility to adjust as market conditions adjust. So if you're looking through your budget and you've got a whole bunch of fixed costs, that's risk that you should be aware of, and really focus on trying to reduce those fixed expenses as much as you can to build in flexibility into your retirement budget. But once you've got that monthly number identified, then each month put that number into an account and live on it, and see what you can, and see how you live. And that's a great way to test drive your retirement plan. And again, if you're doing that in advance of retirement, gives you a wonderful opportunity to review and adjust as needed. So maybe that's adjusting expenses, maybe that's adjusting savings amounts, maybe that's adjusting the risk in your portfolio. But the idea of test driving your retirement before you actually pull the trigger, we are just big fans of. So one of the bigger costs that we all face in especially as we get older is healthcare. And one element of healthcare is going to be associated with Medicare. So we've coined this cost that comes along with Medicare as IRMAA. And I think, Kurt, help me. It's IRMAA stands for income related monthly adjustment amount. Is that right?
I think that sounds right. That sounds right.
Just
I can pull that up.
enthusiastically agree with me, Kurt. No one will know the difference. So it's something like that
It's
acronym.
Medicare income related monthly adjustment amount.
There, I got it.
Yep, very good.
So how that works when you enroll in Medicare is that's a calculation of cost that that's based on IRS information. So your income, what's reported to the IRS. The problem with the IRMAA calculation is that it's used on dated information. So it's based on information that might be 2 years old. So if your circumstances have changed from an income perspective, for any number of reasons, you might be in a position to challenge the IRMAA surcharge, which is over here on the right, by the various income thresholds. You might be able to challenge the IRMAA surcharge that you would be paying, and thereby reduce one of those fixed income expenses. So again, just as a reminder, you see the YouTube logo down there at the bottom. We've got a video specifically on this topic, but it's going to be important for you to review when you do enroll in Medicare, or if you're already enrolled in Medicare, if there's an opportunity to reduce some of your costs by challenging that IRMAA surcharge, which we have. We have people on that slide that you saw of the team. We have people here dedicated to helping clients with Medicare and Social Security decisions. So that's something that our office can help you with. Another part of the healthcare cost equation is going to, for many people, is going to be long-term care. We get this question a lot. It's hopefully not something that people have to deal with when they go into retirement just out of the gate. But again, for many of us, long-term care is going to be a cost that we might have to bear. So there's basically 3 ways to think about planning for long-term care costs. There are pay-as-you-go policies, which you can think about those in a similar way as your auto insurance policy, that you pay a stated premium and as periodically, and as long as you pay that premium, you've got the coverage. And as soon as you stop paying that premium, you don't have the coverage. There are long-term care riders associated with life insurance policies. So that might give you the flexibility to convert a life insurance policy into some form of long-term care benefit or cash flow. And then the third option is just self-insurance. And so what that means is that a person would plan for paying for long-term care costs out of their portfolio if they in fact popped up. It doesn't always happen, but how you'd pay for that would be out of the portfolio. For us in general, we are fans of options 2 and 3 in that list. What we have seen in the pay-as-you-go experience for clients is that as clients get older, those insurance premiums start to skyrocket. And we've seen some renewals that have said something like, well, we're pleased to tell you that your insurance premium has only gone up by 28% a year. They can be huge numbers, making the policies unaffordable, and we've unfortunately seen clients walk away from them due to the cost. So we would rather see clients take a look at, again, either options 2 or 3. Some kind of life insurance rider that would allow you to access benefits early if you need them, or plan for self-insurance. Kurt, do you have any thoughts on either Medicare or long-term care?
Yeah, so on long-term care, I think what I've seen a lot, and I guess this really kind of comes under the savings bucket, or it's kind of the bottom there, is home equity, that you see a lot of people kind of move into retirement communities that have a continuum of care, or maybe it starts as a duplex or independent living, and then maybe more into assisted living or nursing care. And then a lot of times there's kind of a bundled amount, and they use a lot of their home equity in selling their home. in order to kind of fund that phase. And that can work great if you're planning ahead and you're moving into the independent facility while you're still healthy, and you can kind of pass some of the health tests that they have. And I've seen a number of clients kind of do that over the years, and that's kind of been a good option kind of from that savings area, but it does kind of thinking a few steps ahead and still moving in there while you're still relatively healthy. And then I'll kind of cover a couple of great questions that we've got here on the chat forum. Yes, so for the first one, if IRMAA is based upon yearly income, which can go up and down by year, why would we be able to challenge it? And really kind of where the challenge is let's say you have a full working year where you have full income, and then you transition into retirement, and there's a significant change in income in retirement, or maybe you get bonused out, or there's some deferred comp before you retire, or a severance package. It could really boost up your income before you retire. And so you can kind of challenge that and say, these were my working years, this is what it's looking like in retirement, and you can challenge kind of from that standpoint. And then the second question is also a good question. Yes, when you've married filing jointly and you have a spouse that's making significant income, yeah, you are kind of penalized, so to speak, and have to pay those higher healthcare IRMAA premiums.
Great questions. Great questions. So thinking about the liability side of the balance sheet. So again, back to that chart that we started with, we're sort of wandering all over your personal balance sheet, assets, liabilities, and then also the income statement, working on thinking about trying to keep expenses down. So to have a backup source of liquidity, we just love as a plan B. And there's a couple here that we would encourage anybody looking at retirement to think about putting in place if you don't already have them. So the first is going to be a home equity line of credit. And one of the reasons to think about putting that in place, even if you don't need it while you're working, is banks can be a little bit of a challenge. They like to lend money to people that don't need it. And it's much easier to talk with the bank about getting a loan when you're still working. So you're just going to make it easier on yourself going through the underwriting process to get a home equity line of credit put in place while you are still working. It's not impossible to get done while you're retired. It's just the bank goes through a different calculation in the underwriting process when they don't have a job source of income to use. So it's really you're making it easy on the bank if you put that in place, but while you're still working. Another source of backup liquidity, and the font size on this chart is intentional because we would prefer the home equity line of credit first. But another option is a securities-backed line of credit or margin. So that's going to be using your portfolio, so your investment portfolio, non-IRA assets, so things that are owned in a trust account, assets that are owned in a trust account or an individual or a joint account. You can use those assets as collateral for a line of credit. Both of these are very tax efficient, low cost, easy to implement. One of the reasons to be careful with a securities-backed line of credit or margin is the environment that we are going through right now. So the brokerage firm that you might work with, or the investment advisor that you might work with, that's going to help you put a securities-backed line of credit in place, they're going to look at the line of credit balance or borrowing amount relative to the portfolio. So you could get yourself into trouble if your portfolio goes down and you've borrowed too much against the line of credit. So to be crystal clear, in no way are we advocating that someone goes out and borrows money against their house or against their portfolio to support their retirement lifestyle. These are backup sources of liquidity. So this is a plan B or a plan C but important to put that in place before you need it.
And Mark, one way that I've seen these backup sources of liquidity work great is if there's a move that's coming, if you're selling one house and buying another house, it's a great short-term place to gather some assets without having kind of the tax implications or hits. So oftentimes people might borrow from one account to buy a house, and then 2 or 3 months later, when they sell their house, then they pay back that loan. And that's kind of a good short-term liquidity option to purchase and to move. And then
Kurt, how do you feel about tackling that question from Diane?
Great. So kind of looking at this, IRMAA is very much a hot button issue. We've gotten a lot of questions around IRMAA. And so when you look at the required minimum distribution, it's really, really kind of how it's set up. You were saving your whole career, you got all these tax benefits, and eventually Uncle Sam says, it's time to start taking money out and paying income on that. And so when you're starting to take out the required minimum distributions, and especially if it's a bigger IRA and has a big impact on your taxes, it's hard to kind of avoid having to take out that RMD because you have to take out those dollars and it comes as earned income. One way to reduce that tax liability from that is if you're charitably inclined to do donations, and you can gift up to $100,000 to a qualified 501c3. It could be a church, it could be a camp, it could be a college, it could be a cancer society, and you can make donations straight from your IRA to that charity of your choice. And let's say it's $30,000, it would reduce your taxable income by that $30,000. So it's good when you're in the RMD stage to gift directly from your RMD to the charity of your choice.
You want to wrap up the line of credit question?
Okay, yeah, and then I didn't see that one there. So on the home equity line of credit, you open up that home equity line of credit. Maybe there's an initial fee of a couple $100 to open that up. You only have to start paying on the line of credit if you draw on that. So let's say you have a $50,000 line of credit on your account or against your home. But if you draw zero, then you have to pay zero as far as interest rates, just that initial couple $100 setup fee to do that. Let's say you draw $25,000 against the $50,000 line that you have, then you have to start paying interest on that $25,000. And usually that's based on the prime rate. So it's a variable rate. And so it might be prime minus 0.5% or prime plus 0.5%. But you have to pay that interest as soon as you draw on that line of credit based on the amount that you draw.
Great questions. Great questions. So, as people in the office know, attorneys. Here we go. They're one of my favorite whipping boys in the office. So we've tried to have some fun here with attorneys on the left-hand side, but estate planning. So we actually have an attorney in the office. We don't draft documents, but we can help clients with commenting on documents and then interacting with the attorneys when it is time to put those documents together. So core elements of an estate plan are going to be wills, trusts if appropriate, and then powers of attorney, both for healthcare and financial reasons. A great plan to put together if you don't have it already. Important to review those documents periodically, because those documents are going to name people. You're going to name people in those documents that might be making decisions on your behalf for you if you are incapacitated or if you're no longer here. So it's important that those documents reflect your current thinking on those various topics. Another element of estate planning that maybe doesn't get as much attention is it's important to review beneficiaries periodically. For the same reason, to make sure that beneficiary designations reflect your current current wishes. And then more of an issue here in the modern era with so many accounts being accessed electronically, important to share with someone both the location of those various accounts and then how to access them, again, in case you are unable to for whatever reason. But I'd say a consistent theme going through tonight is to go through the review process of these documents before you need them. So to prepare in advance and make sure that the documents reflect what they. I'm sorry, I just got distracted with a question, which from A. Thomas, which I will get to. It's important that those documents reflect your current wishes. So, A. Thomas, I created a will online. Will you review it to make sure it's what I need? And would Fairhaven hold my documents? These are great questions. We would be happy to review the document. We'll tell you what the document says, and then it's going to be up to you to make sure that what the document says is consistent with what it is that you need. And then would Fairhaven hold my documents? That's a fabulous question. A number of clients have given us copies of these documents to hold on to, and we've encouraged them to share with their family members the fact that we do have copies of these documents to help families when it's time to make some decisions in the event of incapacitation or unfortunately death. So those are great questions. Kurt, you want to handle 529s?
Yeah, so when you're looking at kind of RMDs, so the RMD, if you wanted to fund a college account from your RMD, it does have to come out as income and taxable income when kind of looking at it from that standpoint. So you can't directly fund a 529 plan from your RMD. It would come through as taxable income. Different states like Illinois, for instance, if you have other income that's coming in, you can contribute into a 529 plan and you can save on your Illinois state taxes, but not on your federal taxes. So, but a great question around 529 plans and figuring out how do I pay for college and the expense of college for grandkids and other people that are significantly younger than you are.
And Thomas, as a follow-up to that comment, if somebody's not comfortable sharing documents with their advisor, that's okay. We have a thick skin that doesn't hurt our feelings. It is important though that you share with somebody in your family or your trusted circle where those documents are. All right, so we are just on the other side of 30 minutes, so we are doing a good job moving along here. So we have traveled again. We've traveled around the balance sheet, traveled around the income statement, but some takeaways that we'd love everybody to walk away with are to build a cash cushion. Thinking about that bucket strategy that Kurt went through. Building in some flexibility to be able to respond dynamically to market conditions. I mean, those are just things that none of us can control. All we can do is control how we respond to them. So having some flexibility in your personal budget, minimizing fixed costs, so that you can help take pressure off of your portfolio in times of financial stress is a huge asset. Think about that idea of practicing, and so going out and testing what your assumptions might be. Auntie Irma, as we have affectionately dubbed her, can be shown the door, and so it's important to review that from time to time. Putting in place backup sources of liquidity again before you need them is the time to make those decisions, and then making sure that the estate planning documents, number one, are in place. So not everybody's got an estate plan put together, but that they also are reviewed from time to time to make sure that they're accurate with your current wishes, and important for somebody to know where they are we would be fans of your advisor having a copy of them, and you sharing that with family members that your advisor does have a copy of those documents. What Kurt, what are we missing that we did not cover?
Yeah, so I think we did a good job at kind of covering kind of a lot of the different topics. Certainly a number of things that are top of mind, just with the tough market conditions that we're in, and how to kind of best plan around difficult periods of time for investing. Obviously, we've hit a button with RMD and IRMAA, so this might be our first presentation with IRMAA in it, but certainly a lot of questions around that. So, it was great to have everyone here this evening. Just kind of another reminder, you can watch our Mind the Gap video, our anti-IRMAA video, and other videos, educational videos on our website at fairhavenwealth.com. But yeah, really kind of appreciate everyone's time this evening. And obviously you can follow up with Fairhaven. We're back in the office early tomorrow morning. So if you have personal questions, obviously we're looking at kind of broad financial topics, but there can be issues that are and questions that you have that are specific for you. So we're available anytime to speak and go through those questions you may have.
So again, as we kicked off, we've been recording, so we're going to share the recording. That's going to be posted on the website as well as the YouTube channel. But I think this is the slide that I'd like to end on, and that is to think, when you think of us, think far more broadly than stocks and bonds. There's all sorts of different ways that we can help make sure that you're ready for retirement, getting ready for retirement, or getting through retirement. So really appreciate everybody joining us this evening. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your night.